Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Moondrop Starfield. This is one of the latest IEMs from Moondrop, this time a remake or a retake on one of the most popular, one of the most received IEMs from Moondrop, the original Starfield, and an IEM that I personally like very much. Anyway, this is the box, usual kind of waifu presentation that we already know. You open it up, inside of this little pouch here, or box section or whatever, comes some paperwork and some tips which I'll show, or some rubber gourmets that I'll show to you now. IEMs came over there, and over here came the case, which is the usual Moondrop case. Anyway, let me just put this out of the way here. The little rubber gourmets or something that I was trying to show you is these ones. If you see these ones, if you look carefully, you'll see these ones have got a hole in them, and these ones are solid. Okay, and basically these are used to tune the bass output of the Starfield. But you know, not wanting to sound mean or be mean, I honestly like to understand what was going through the head of the person that decided to do this way. I can understand that trying to find another means of adjusting the bass could be a little bit more difficult and so on. But I mean, if the nozzles on there are adjustable in the sense that they can be removed, I don't know, maybe they could have included the venting hole on that on that said nozzle that could either be closed or more open, and thus regulate the amount of bass that the IEM has. Just an idea. So basically what I'm trying to say is, as we know, usually that vent, that in this case is that huge vent over there that you can just see over there, okay, that vent is what regulates the bass output. They could have somehow incorporated that into the actual nozzle, and when you swapped out the nozzle, you could have a hole or not have a hole, or have a small hole. I don't know, just an idea. And that would have been not only much easier to have adjusting, to do the adjusting of the bass, but probably would even improve a few other things, such as fit and so on. But anyway, that's just an idea. These things basically are a nightmare to put on. So much so that I tried it once and they were just popping out all the time. I just left it. Seriously, this was not one of the better things that Moondrop has done. So if anyone at Moondrop is listening, you need to rethink this, and I don't know, but no, this is not a success. As for the IEM itself, well, it brings a really nice cable, I have to say. The cable does look the part, following this theme of blue and star night and so on. Nice cable, really nice cable. It's got nice terminations, Moondrop name on there. You can just barely see it, alright. And as for the IEMs themselves, very nice. They again follow, they've got this kind of Stellaris look to them, okay, and they follow the same original design of the first Starfield, this blue color. Basically this looks like a powder coated shell, and it just looks the business. They've got a nice hefty weight to them. They look the part, in terms of they feel and they look the part. In that aspect, there's nothing really that can be said with regards to Moondrop products in general. They know what they're doing. They know how to build them. They know how to make them. Just this little base adjustment thing wasn't exactly the ideal. Anyway, fit is fine. I did use the stock tips, which actually aren't bad. I've said the same thing about the tips as well with regards to the shoe too, but I ended up using the KB07 tips, which you can see kind of all the tips I use as well on the original Starfield. I use on the Aria, and I use as well on the shoe too. So basically I've got the same tips being used across the board, just to maintain some uniformity and some consistency ultimately with regards to the results, because tips will change things quite a bit. So as I've just mentioned, I've got three other Moondrop products here, and on this end I've got the SimGot, the EA500, and the Duno Kima, the Classic, which hasn't been getting really a lot of attention. And ultimately I can also put some of that blame on me, because I didn't really speak too much of it, and when I did talk about it, I actually preferred the Kima to the Kima Classic. I ended up preferring more the relaxed tune of the Kima, but it's always very relative. It always very much depends on what you've just been listening to, what you've been coming from, and after listening to the Starfield 2, I've actually found a newfound attraction for the Kima Classic, and I can actually understand now better how or what the intention of the tuning was here. So I've changed my idea about it slightly. But anyway, we'll get into that in just a second. Anyway, talking about the Starfield 2, they're using a new lithium magnesium alloy diaphragm, and I guess that sometimes brands or not brands or engineers rather, when they are designing things, they maybe forget that depending on what the material that is being used for the diaphragm, that material will present different porous capabilities, different rigidity capabilities, different compliance, everything about that diaphragm will change radically the sound. And even if they had exactly the same tuning, the material will change that sound, and it's quite noticeable. And I've seen this happen with a careful hear and in the right conditions. You can notice the difference between a CNT driver and a DLC and a titanium and an LCP. You can pick up on the differences. If they have exactly the same tuning, you will pick up on those differences. And I think that over here they perhaps were a little bit overzealous and just gave it way too much energy in the mids, upper mids, and treble. Just way too much. In an attempt to go and fetch that extra detail, that extra resolution, that extra twinklies and sparklies, they overdid it. And mind you, let me just say, I am half deaf. I always said this, obviously in a joking manner, but yes, I don't have the hearing capability that I used to have. I can hear up to about 14, 15k. Yeah, 15k I can hear pretty decent still. But if I myself, which don't have that sensitivity that the younger ones of you or still have towards the higher frequencies, if I myself find it a little bit on the edge, I can imagine what most of you will find. If you still have that hearing capability. Having said that, obviously, of course, it all depends. If that's what rocks your boat, if high energy presentation in the higher frequencies is what you like, then this is right up your alley. Now, as it is, and after listening to it carefully and not wanting to jump the gun and not wanting to be, I feel that Moondrop needed a little bit extra work here. Okay, they needed a little bit extra work done to it. If the original Starfield was known for its imaging, was known for a very tame treble, but overall it had a very, very satisfying sound. I mean, this CNT driver here was on the dot, on the money, perfect. It's one of those IEMs you can listen for hours and it's not fatiguing. If then on the Aria you got very much the same thing, but with a little extra added treble, and better soundstage. I mean, not huge differences, mind you guys. I mean, but a little bit more soundstage, a little bit added treble. They could have gone, because it's kind of what they usually do. They kind of very much do a copy paste of the same tuning and just do fine adjustments here and there. I mean, the Kato is basically an improvement over the Aria. The Kato is a kind of these two, just slightly improved. They could have done the same thing with the Starfield and not go a completely 180 and give it the treble that the original one never had, and make it so intense in the mids, upper mids, and treble that it just, first of all, goes completely against what the original one was about. And sometimes I've heard in the past people complain about, well, one of the items that was very much complained about with regards to that radical change in the tuning was the CCA, the CRA. I remember when the CCA, CRA came out, and then the Plus came out, everybody crucified the Plus because it was radically different and this and that. Well, that's exactly what Moondrop has done. Moondrop has, obviously I'm going to exaggerate here, but they've basically this is blasphemy. If what their idea was to follow on the tuning of the original, this is blasphemy. This is a complete insult to the original Starfield. I think maybe they should have called it something else completely different, because there is nothing about the Starfield 2 that even remotely resembles the original one. Nothing. It's got nice bass, and the bass doesn't shine more only because it's got way too much mids and treble. That's it. Because the bass is basically the same in these three. Very, very similar. It's just got way too much mids, and that's what kind of hinders the bass from showing itself. I tried, like I said, those little gourmets to increase the bass and to try and see if I could match that added, that extra energy that it has in the mids and the treble with a little bit of added bass. And to be honest with you, it helped some, but it just kind of was. I looked at it as putting a band-aid on something that wasn't designed properly from the beginning. That's the way I looked at it. You're putting a little band-aid there to kind of make up for something that you should have been taking care of initially. So no, the bass as it is fine. It's a good quality bass. It's got speed. It's got detail. It's got resolution. It's correct in terms of timbre and tonality. And I actually went to the trouble of bringing down with an equalizer the mids and the treble slightly, and the difference that it made is just, outrageous. If this had been tuned with a little bit less mids and treble, I think we could possibly be looking at a new reference in terms of what a single DD can be at around the $100 mark. Honestly, I really do. I really think that this could be an IM that could be trading blows with the EA500, for example. And as it is, the EA500 eats it alive. And mind you, the EA500 is also known by some people, oh, it's too intense and this and that. Well, let me tell you one thing. By comparison, the EA500 is tame. And even the energy that it does have is a clean energy. It's a very detailed energy. It's very clean. It's an IEM that, although energetic, it's got a cleanliness to it and a way of doing things that has no comparison possible with the Starfield. No comparison. It's, in my opinion, a much better IEM, and in the way that it does all of that. Also, in terms of the bass, although graphically it looks like it's got a less bass than this, completely different as well. Way more impact, way more. It's just a nicer sounding IEM. For me, for my ears, for my music, the EA500 it's no contest with the Starfield 2. No contest. Okay. The Kima, the classic, kind of has the same vibe in terms of the tuning as the EA500. And when I show you the graphs, you'll see what I mean. It's got more bass, but when you listen to it, it doesn't bring out that bass. You don't feel that it's got that extra bass. Now, compared to the Starfield 2, again, it's much better. It's not in the bass where you see the difference. It's just in the way that it then handles the mids, upper mids, and treble. Although energetic, and although it can be, at times just a little bit on the edge there, I can handle the classic very easily compared to what I can handle the Starfield. And I don't really have to look very hard, or I don't even have to try very hard. La Belle Done Sans Remorse from Chris Botti, that minute 120 to 1 minute 140, that trumpet, I can crank up the volume here, and I can handle it. I can do the same thing here very easily on these two. On here, oh my God, this thing is gonna just completely. I don't know. It's an IEM that if you're going to listen to it at low volumes, yes, okay, fine. It's going to be super detailed. Everything's going to be there, but then you're going to feel that it's lacking in the bass. And in that situation, maybe if you add those rubber band-aids for the bass, maybe things can be acceptable. But the moment you start really putting a little bit more power to it, it just loses its composure. It doesn't scale the way I was expecting it to be scaled, which the EA500 does well. the Keymet Classic does well, the original Starfield, the Aria, and even the Shoe 2. I mean, if I have to be honest, I prefer the Shoe 2 over this. I do. If this maybe had that tuning there, okay, that would be a different story. But as it is, I take the Shoe 2 any day over the Starfield. Any day. Even with the fact that I know that at lower volumes this will be more detailed, more crystal clean, more more twinklies and sparklies. This is a better IM than the Starfield 2. And I mean, that's basically it, guys. I mean, I don't think I really need to say too much. It's got good quality bass, it's got good mids and good treble if you listen to it low. The moment you crank it up, forget it, it's gonna try and kill your ears. That's the reality. It just needs to bring down that energy level, 2 dBs at least, at the very least 2 dBs. I would perhaps even say 3. Compared to the original Starfield, I think the original Starfield only loses to it by not having as much treble, but then again, I prefer to have less treble, but being able to listen to it at various levels of volume, and at very and enjoy it, and really get some enjoyment out of this. The same thing applies to the Aria. The Aria is overall a superior IM to the Starfield 2. And like I said, the EF500, the same thing, and the Keymet Classic, the same thing. It's it's a pity, because I was wanting this to be something that was going to be a success. I really was. I'm not, by no means am I trying to bring down Moondrop or bring down the Starfield 2. I just feel that they kind of just got a little carried away and didn't really do the tuning, or didn't pay the necessary attention to the tuning that they should have paid. Alright, anyway guys, I'll show you now the graph so you guys can just basically see what's going on, and that's that. Alright, take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the Starfield 2. Let me just take away everything here so that we can start from the beginning. Alrighty, okay, so let's start then with the graph for the well, actually let's show the original Starfield first, and we work ourselves from there. Okay, this is the original Starfield. I mean, this is using KBR 07 tips, very mild Harman, very kind of neutralish kind of bass. Everything stays within a very tight window. We're talking 60 to 67, so 7 dBs roughly. Very gliding style of bass, just enough of it there. The same thing going into the pin again, very smooth. I mean, really can't be faulted. The 07 tips do help quite a bit in terms of this, of giving it a little bit more soundstage, okay? But really nice IM. The Aria was a slightly different take on it, but as you can see, the slightly different take was basically down to the different driver, okay? The bass maintained itself almost the same. Maybe a little bit of a difference in terms of the overall texture, but really not much. And then, yes, where you did notice difference was in the treble. The graph here doesn't maybe show it as much as what you can actually hear, also because I'm using the same sort of tips. But you notice reasonably well that the Aria has got just a little extra treble, a little bit extra more air, a little bit more space, okay? So those two, fine, well done. And then, Moondrop decides to launch the Starfield Mark II, and they give us this. So they give us basically, it's the same IEM up to 2K. You can see the bass is the same, it's well done. But then they go and give us 4 dBs of extra energy. For what? I mean, the balance that was before was fine. This is just way too much. And what this does is, if in the previous models, and I'm just going to start here with actually the Starfield. This balance between bass and the mids. Let's take 60 hertz, okay? So we've got 60 hertz there, okay? And we've got the top of the upper mids, let's say 3K there. There's a difference of 66, 2 dBs. Perfect balance, nice, really nice. Let's now take the Aria again, 60 hertz. 60 hertz, we've got 67, and the mids 68, so 1 dB, okay, which makes it, and yes, you do feel a little bit extra warmth on the bass, but at the same time there's more detail in the treble. It's actually a funny one to you have to hear it, honestly. Those of you that have both of them, if you pay careful attention, yes, you notice that the bass on the RS perhaps just a little bit more there. Just, I mean, 1 dB is very difficult to notice, but it's just the tonality, like I said earlier, the tonality is slightly different, and then there's more treble, more air there. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the Mark II Starfield. 60 Hertz, we are at 66, and we are at 72, so 6 dBs difference. I mean, why go and spoil that nice balance of 1, 2, 3 dBs between the two to a 6 dB, which is very, very easy to notice, very easily noticeable. I mean, they just spoiled it, honestly. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Anyway, next one, let me just take out all of them except for the Starfield 2, and now let's put on the EA500. EA500, okay? Bass for the most is exactly the same, just a little bit less there, but not, you can't even perceive it, but less energy. Give the Starfield the same energy as the EA500, and that's it. It's going to be perfect. We still have that difference that I just talked about, but the overall balance is still, it's a nice balance. Why? Because we are talking about a difference of, and let me just do the same thing so that you guys think I'm not being fair to the Starfield. We've got 66 and we've got 74 dBs. Okay, it's right on the edge there of what I was saying. 2 to 3 dBs for absolute maximum, but it's nice. It still comes across as highly detailed with a nice bass that's got nice warmth, nice lush feel to it, and loads of air, everything, you know, perfect, you know, nice, really nice. Tuno Kima Classic, same situation. If you actually compare it with the EA500, which I've just put on the E500, you can see they graph almost identical. It's actually quite interesting. It's got apparently more bass, but when you listen to it, it doesn't come across that way. It really doesn't. Compared to the Starfield 2, more bass, okay, and less energy, but the balance of the two is more well achieved, and thus that overall tonality that comes across is a more satisfying tonality. There are still times where you can notice a little bit of edginess here in that 5-6, at least I can, because I'm sensitive to that. And you can see why, because it's basically the same level as on the Starfield. But because it's got that little extra energy from the bass from behind helping it out, it helps camouflage and helps you deal with it in a better way, okay? And then finally, the Shoe 2, which is, where are we? Here we go, number 10. And finally, the Shoe 2. Again, the Shoe 2, more bass, very noticeable that it's got more bass, but again, this is down. And once again, I'm repeating myself, the balance between the bass, 60 Hertz, we're talking 69, and that's just over 69. I mean, it's not even a dB of difference. It just sounds balanced, and when you listen to one and the other, you know, it's easy. It's a no-brainer choice. The one that will be more satisfying is unquestionably the Shoe 2. The Shoe 2. Look, it's like I said earlier in the review. You wouldn't even have to give the bass of the Shoe 2. You could actually leave the bass of the Starfield as Mark II as it is. Just decrease the energy. Just decrease the energy 2-3 dBs a little bit. Just take it out, and that's it. It will be fine, and it will be an absolute beast of an IM. Seriously, I find it hard to believe that they didn't, do the necessary testing and so on. I really do. Anyway, guys, that's my take on the Starfield Mark II, or Starfield 2, whichever way you want to call it. As always, like and subscribe. Any questions you might have, please feel free to ask. Alright, you take care now. Bye bye.